This meeting is being live streamed. I got it.
There it is. Good
Are we
morning.
on,
Good morning.
now whose page are we on this time? Are we on
Okay, let's not. Let's not. I will not be cyberbullied on my own program.
This is love. This is love. Hey, actually, as we talk about love, I see that your plant has been repotted, so I'm really glad that
It's not. She's recovering.
Hanging out.
My aloe took a tumble, everyone. I know that is the riveting content you came here today, but my house plant over the weekend took a tumble. So my Monday started with seeing my sweet plant just scattered across my office floor. But that's neither here nor there. Hi, welcome to At the Center.
We're glad to be here.
Yes. I'm Zach. My pronouns are they, them. I'm the Director of Programs and Marketing here at Stonewall. And as always, I am joined by
Denzel Porteous, pronouns he, they, Executive Director at Stonewall Columbus. I'm glad to be here with you all today.
Yes. And Denzel, my, where are you tuning in from?
Well, I am zooming in from the wonderful land of Washington, D.C. I was going to say state, but we're not a state here. So, that's something that people keep talking about. But I'm here in Washington, D.C. To do a little friend-raising, a little fundraising, networking, and just, I would love to say that it's a vacation on a holiday, but it is not that. It is work. So.
All good. We appreciate you doing some outreach to the good old District of Columbia.
Their Pride group actually just applied to host World Pride 2025, I think it is. So I believe that they will find out on Sunday if they get it or not. So that's pretty exciting to think that World Pride may be coming back to the US again. So
wow, that's awesome. Trying to think of a cute segue, but my brain is not firing today. But I think we would be remiss to not mention that today, November 11th, is Veterans Day. So happy Veterans Day to all those who have served. We appreciate the efforts and sacrifices you have made for our country. And I think that we'll have a more intentional moment to do that next week on Thursday, November 18th. We are having the Donald R. Hallman LGBTQ Veterans Award ceremony. Why don't you talk a little bit about that, Denzel?
Yeah, so we are so privileged. I think it was probably in 2014, 2017, when Stonewall declared November LGBTQ Veterans Recognition Month. And so for the last several years, our organization has been really privileged to uplift and highlight those LGBTQ service members, retired service members who have given their time, their energy, and their love to our country to help protect our freedoms and the fight for freedoms and equity and equality that has, for so many reasons, kept our country moving forward in a good direction. Our ability and opportunity to take a moment to recognize those who may not have always been able to be open and out and honest about who they are and their identities is something that I think we understand to be most paramount and essential. And not only in just sort of singularly recognizing those who have given service, but those who are currently in service who still may not feel comfortable to be their full selves, to realize that being open and fully yourself can be something uplifting and life-changing and also life-saving. So I'm excited to continue to recognize our veterans, and next week I'm looking forward to welcoming several veterans to the center in celebration of who they are and recognition of what they've done for our community. Folks, I think, can still RSVP for that event if they'd like to go to our website. It is a limited number of tickets. We have 75 tickets fully available for that event and engagement. We are in the middle of a pandemic, and so we still want to make sure that we are being thoughtful and mindful of how we bring our folks together in community as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think this year is a little bit different. In years past, we've had an open nomination process. So we honor not only LGBT veterans, but we also in the past have honored the spouses and the spouses of our veterans. A lot of times when we talk about marriage equality, we get really caught up in the warm, gushy feeling of it, of love is love. And yes, love is love, and that is an important part of it. But when it comes to marriage equality, things like having a military spouse, until marriage equality and before the repealing of Don't Ask, Don't Tell, military spouses or military partners were not able to get updated information about their service family members and their spouses. So we also in years past have honored spouse members. This year we didn't receive any nominations for military spouses, but we do want to take a moment to recognize them as well. And I'm sure we'll do that on the 18th as well. So again, if you're interested in attending that event, as Dindal said, you can find out more information on our events calendar, and you can RSVP for that. And again, limited spots, so please check that out. Let's run through some additional updates. We have coming next week, the Women's Book Club is going to be meeting for their monthly meeting. This month, they are reading Where the Forest Meets the Stars by Glendy Bendera. So that group meets both in person and virtually. So if you would like to have either of those options, they are available to you. You can find out more information again on our events calendar. We also have taking place tonight in the center, our partner with The Phoenix, which is a national organization with a chapter here in Columbus that provides sober, active activities for those dealing with addiction disorders. So they are hosting a meditation class in our space. We've been really lucky to have them with us. And again, they are able to provide physical activities outside of a 12-step program that's more just getting space for sober-minded people to be able to engage together. And their only requirement is that if you attend one of their events that you are 2 days sober. So whatever that means for you, you can find out, again, more information at the events calendar on our website for that. We have some upcoming kind of recognition days for our community, not just for Stonewall, but for the broader LGBTQ+ community. On Saturday, November 20th, we have Transgender Day of Remembrance, which is the conclusion of Transgender Awareness Week. So we will be partnering with some local organizations and activators within Columbus to be able to uplift the work that they're doing. So again, we want to be able to uplift the work that is already taking place and making sure that we are passing the mic for folks within that type of community organizing. So we'll have more information about that in the coming days. But again, that is Saturday, November 20th. As we look forward to the end of the month, it's hard to think of the end of the month since we are just, a little over a week into November. But after Thanksgiving and holidays and moments for folks to gather and celebrate what they're grateful for, we have December 1st, which is World AIDS Day. We're partnering with a few different organizations to have some activation, both virtually and in person. Most notably, we will have a resource fair with various providers and resources here in the center from noon to 6 on Wednesday, December 1st. We are partnering with organizations such as Equality Ohio, Columbus Public Health, and the OSU Medical Wexner Center's MATEC program. So we'll have more information of that coming out soon on both our social media as well as on the events calendar. So keep an eye out for that. We're really excited to be able to have a moment to honor those who have been affected by HIV and AIDS, but also to look at the work that still needs to be done in terms of repealing some archaic and discriminatory legal statutes that still affect folks who are living with HIV, as well as being able to provide some educational resources to where we can finally end the epidemic of HIV. So we're really excited to do our part, both in providing a space to remember those who have been affected and that we've lost to HIV and AIDS, but also be able to look forward at the hope that we have of medical advancements and community advancements as well. Not only are we changing medical, we also need to be changing minds and changing thought processes for that as well.
So thank you. Looking forward to it.
Yes. So we have a special guest with us. We have Jody Davis. She is going to be joining us momentarily. Jody Davis, I'm not a journalist. I'm not someone who studied that, but I tried to look up, I always try to, when we have a guest, look up a little bit about them, the work that they're doing, but not only the work that they're doing, but also just a little bit about them. So as I was searching and doing some research on Jody, I was like, she has her hats. She has multiple hats. I don't think her home probably has enough hat racks for all the hats she wears. So we're super lucky that on Veterans Day, we're able to welcome a veteran to talk about her experience, as well as talk about the work that she's doing for our community. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome in Jody Davis. Hi, welcome, Jody.
Hey, how y'all doing today?
Good.
Doing great. So I just gave a very brief intro, and I included in the email that we sent previous to this, that as I was doing a little bit of research on the work that you do, as well as just you, is that you are a woman who wears many, many hats and has your hands in many, many areas that are really helping people. So I would love to start out with one, just I would love for you, I've introduced you, but I would love for you to introduce yourself.
Oh, gee. Well, Zach Densel, thank you for having me here today on the center. Facebook Live with Stonewall Columbus and friends. So my name's Jody Davis. I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, couple hours away. I moved up here, oh my gosh, maybe 10 years ago, to finish a master's in social work at Ohio State.
Wow.
Let's see, I'm divorced, I'm remarried. My lovely wife, Jennifer Evans, is in the room, in the house. She has
Hi,
to.
Jennifer.
Oh, you want to come say hi?
Hi! The meeting is
Hi.
quick, so I apologize.
No
No
worries.
worries.
Hope you all are well today.
We
Thank
are.
you as well.
Thank you
Good to
for
see
for,
you.
your, for supporting Jody in so many different ways. We appreciate it. Our community appreciates it. So thank you. Thank you. Thank
Happy
you.
Veterans Day.
Happy Veterans Day. Yes.
It's true, it's true. Thank you. Yeah, so we have a blended family. Let's see what else I should say. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm an out transgender female. I came out 2014, 2015. I feel like I lived an entire life before coming out. And what I generally tell people is I feel like I lived in black and white. And then as I finally started to come out and really be myself and not hide and not feel so much shame anymore, that life began to be lived in color. So that's kind of
That's
what I
beautiful.
felt. So I have worked at Ohio State University Wexford Medical Center for almost 10 years. I work there in internal medicine, primary care. At this point, I'm more of a data nerd for them. Lots of reports and compliance, workflows, all the nerd stuff. And then for the past 6 months at Ohio State, I've done some work with their transgender population, with their urology group,
Wow.
because finally Ohio State got on board with transaffirmative surgeries. So OSU, those are the hats I wear. And then I'm at the Veterans Administration. I've been there for about a year as their part-time LGBTQ social worker. So I've been doing that for a year-ish now, getting an education on how to work with the federal government. But I guess I was a part of the federal government right after high school when I did join the military to help pay for college. So I've got an 8-year-old daughter, almost 9-year-old, named Lily, who just got her first COVID vaccine yesterday.
Oh,
Great
mazel.
girl. I've got stepkids, 21, 23, that are Jen's bio kids. And our family's pretty gender diverse. My wife and I identify as lesbians. And so that's kind of me, I guess.
Forget to mention all our children that are transgender.
Oh, well, I said gender diverse, dear. So
We love the backseat interviewing. It's
I
amazing.
know. It's not doing enough good enough job, Jody. Come on. Let's see. I've been on the board of Equality Ohio. Right now, I'm a commissioner with the city of Columbus, and learning more about that and how that works. We have a retreat coming up that hopefully will help me understand more of how to help people in our community that feel that they've been discriminated against, but the process.
Sorry, Jody. What commission are you sitting on?
Oh, it's like the Civil Rights Commission. Oh, it's called Community Relations Commission.
The Civil Rights Commission versus the Community.
Semantics.
I'm getting beat up in my own home right now. And three
That's all right.
dogs just showed up in the living room. It's the benefit of doing these things from home.
Right.
Anyway,
Well, it's okay. That's
so
why
I'm
we
here
started the
here,
program.
and I'm happy to be here on Veterans Day. Happy to answer a few questions, maybe show a few pictures, things like that.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you so much for sharing a little bit about you, your work, sharing your family, both on camera as well as referencing them. I don't think we've ever had a guest bring a guest. That's the first. That's really cool. So we love that. Let's start with one of the first questions that I sent you yesterday is if you could share a little bit, and you alluded to this in your introduction. If you could share a little bit about your role as the LGBTQ, what is the LGBTQ Veteran Care Coordinator?
Is that what I am? The Veterans Care Coordinator.
That's what I copied from your email signature.
That's what I tell people. All right, I'm gonna try to share a slide or two. Can you guys see this band?
Yeah.
He's serving.
Yeah.
So because I'm home and not actually at the VA, I don't have this amazing slide deck. So I was trying to hunt for a few things. Jonah Minot and I, way back in January of 2019, presented at Creating Change conference up in Detroit. Of course, this would have been pre-COVID, so people were actually there. So I'm going to use some of this presentation, I think, and this is obviously very military focused. So one of the things to think about is the US military is the single largest employer of LGBTQ people in the country. People don't think about that per se.
Can I just let's sit with that for a moment? Like, I really want us to read that again, like really sit with it. The US military is the single largest employer of LGBTQ queer people in the country.
Wow.
That's wow. That's all, wow.
It's
Wow.
big.
Wow. Wow.
So, and this presentation was put together in the midst of what we'll call the Trump trans ban. And I'm not going to go through the whole presentation, but I wanted to show a couple of pictures. So I was in the Guard from 1987 to 1995. That makes me really old. Really old. I joined when I was 17. I had to get my mom's permission. And I graduated high school. And 3 weeks later, I was in Fort Knox. So like, boom, boom. And then Jonah, too, on the screen here as well. We both are at the VA. Jonah's in the Guard right now. Does an amazing job. So, and it's kind of fun to be at the VA with Jonah. We were both in the same social work class, and we both came out as trans after graduating from high school. This is me in my first communion.
Jody, if I might for one moment, we should also acknowledge that Jonah is currently a Stonewall board member as well. So we are pleased to have them in service with us and helping us be better and do better.
Yeah. That's me in my first communion, Cincinnati. I grew up Catholic. I went K through 12 Catholic. I went to an all boys Catholic high school. Not the right move for a queer little person like me, but it is what happened. But it's part of this idea that usually you figure out gender between 4 and 6 years old, something like that. We understand to be true. So this is me at about 5 or 6. So I knew something was different about me in relation to gender. This would have been the 70s, tells you how old I am. So no internet, no cable, only books in the Catholic library. Pretty doomed. So anyway.
Well, at least you had lovely wallpaper, because I'm obsessed with that.
I tell people my favorite thing about that slide is the wallpaper.
It's gorgeous.
Thank you. It's a picture of me in the military on drill. There's a camp up in Michigan called Camp Grayling. So, and I had a lot of different motivations for joining the military. I had kind of a dysfunctional family growing up and trauma and all this stuff. And there were all these commercials on TV about being all you can be. And it seemed like this group of like superhumans. And I was looking for belonging. I was also looking for college to be paid for. But a big part of it is I had been cross-dressing. I'd been very confused about my gender. I felt like I could not come out. I couldn't be myself. God wanted me to be a man. My family expected me to be a man. So I'm going to go in the military, and it's going to cure me of all these gender issues. So that's kind of what I tried to do. It seemed like it worked for a little while. Just kind of like it seemed like conversion therapy worked for a little while. Like I was on board with that because I felt like I was sinful and distorted and perverted. And I needed to be cured of my gender issues. So anyway, let's see, I might stop showing slides. What was the question again, Zach?
I was asking about your role and what you do for veterans within your part-time role as
And
an
I
LGBTQ.
totally blew it.
It's quite all right.
It's
But
not,
what I
but people are, I mean, your backstory is relevant and important to hearing it. So
Yeah, but what I will say, if you think about military history, and again, I'm flying through here, is some people know about good old Leonard Matlovich
Mhm.
that challenged the anti-gay policy in the military. And I could talk all about him. His gravesite is at DC, and you can Google it. I don't have a picture of it, but it says the military gave me a medal
Yes.
for killing 2 men and discharged me for who I love. Something very similar to that. So I bring him up because there's this policy of don't ask, don't tell. And when I talk to brand new VA people in new employee orientation, I say, hey, where did don't ask, don't tell come from? Like, what president was that? And they look around, they're not really sure. And I say, well, he played the saxophone and he liked to sing Don't Stop Thinking About Tomorrow. And then usually people go, oh, that's Slick Willie, that's Bill Clinton. So Bill Clinton came up with Don't Ask, Don't Tell in the 90s. This idea that, well, as long as we don't know you're gay, you're fine. And I guess that might have been some semblance of improvement, but it still kept a hell of a lot of people fearful. You need to stay in the closet, because if they were somehow found out by anybody in their unit, their lives could be a living hell. And discharged dishonorably, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm flying through slides here. Who got rid of Don't Ask, Don't Tell? I asked people that. President Obama, 2010. But what that means is you've got a whole generation of veterans who served during Don't Ask, Don't Tell. So when you ask me what I actually do, I work with veterans who mostly served during Don't Ask, Don't Tell. I'm there part-time. Whenever people within what we call our region for the VA, which is kind of like Ohio. There's these different, the VA is broken up into these VISNs, and I'm in VISN 10. So VISN 10 is Ohio and Michigan and Indiana. And so there are several VAs. Each one of those VAs has someone like me. And so we get referrals from people in the clinics going, hey, this person's struggling with their sexuality. This person's struggling with their gender identity. They just want to talk to you about it. And so that's how I reach out to people. First, I find out about them, either from referrals within the clinics or by just advertising, reaching out. So when I talk to people, I get both the blessing and the curse at times of having people come out to me, in, sometimes these are wonderful stories. Sometimes these are horrible, awful stories. Sometimes I get triggered with my own crap. But I think for the veterans, what's nice is that I am a veteran and that I am in the LGBTQ program, in the community, I should say. And so I think they feel comfortable that I can relate to other people may not relate as well. So that's part of what I do. And I think I might be done with showing slides. Maybe. Yeah, if people don't understand the military and how it works, you've got this president, Secretary of Defense, service forces, then you have the branches. So there's ranks and all that kind of stuff. But, I don't want to bore people. So there is a slide here. Let's see. When you work with veterans, like anybody else, the LGBTQ population, avoid assumptions, use reflective language, and have some sensitivity to trauma-informed care. So this is a pretty famous trans veteran, Autumn, who served in the military, the Navy years ago. The trans flag came from Monica Helms. I met her in DC a couple of years ago. So our trans flag is from the military, from a veteran. And also just the plain old LGBTQ flag, the pride flag, is also developed by a veteran. So.
Oh, Gilbert Baker, he was a veteran?
True story.
Wow, that's really cool. And I think a lot of folks might have heard recently in the news that recently a naval vessel was named after Harvey Milk, who is also a Navy veteran. Yep.
Yeah.
I was speaking with someone yesterday. I spoke on a radio program called Voice Corps, and the host spoke about the kind of sticky situation that they went through in terms of naming the vessel. Oh, there it is.
There it goes.
Oh my gosh, you beat us to
There
it.
it is. Well, I mean, they planned this for quite a while, but they just
Yeah.
recently kind of like broke the wine
Broke
glass
the-
in front of it. So it's ready to be deployed, if you will.
Oh,
Yeah.
gotcha. The conversation we were having was Harvey Milk's surviving brother asking to not have his dishonorable discharge removed, instead to leave it as dishonorable because that is part of Harvey Milk's legacy. And I thought that was an interesting take to have on it, because I think that does speak to the lived experience, but also it's, since we tragically lost Harvey Milk to violence, we don't know what he would have wanted in 2021.
That's such an interesting space to consider, right? When you think that it is also a reminder to our country that those who did serve, they forced out, right? So sort of, if you, which I think is a powerful thing. I think I'm not putting myself in Harvey's head, but I can see that being a very powerful story. That look at all the contributions I've made to the country even since that moment, and yet I was kicked out.
Yeah.
So that's a powerful story to tell.
It is. It is. It's kind of the, to use like a Christian allegory, it's the blood of the martyrs. It's all those people that came way before us, who worked hard and kicked ass and fought a lot harder than we have to, so that we can make the progress that we can make.
Agreed. So if we could pivot into my next question,
Oh, yes.
What are some issues that specifically LGBTQ veterans experience that their cisgender or heterosexual counterparts might not be experiencing? Again, this is kind of a common sense question, but just still wanted to put words to it.
Sure. How long do I have? 5 minutes, 10 minutes?
Oh no, take as much time as you want. We don't have to finish all these. I just wanted to give us some structure.
We're going till 4, right? Well, it's just such a broad question.
Yeah.
You know, when I talk to people who had to be quiet about who their lovers were during military service, and it's interesting, they'll say, everybody knew the LGBTQ friendly bar off post, and I'd see other people in that bar, and I thought, oh my God, am I going to be outed to my unit when I get back on base? You know, what's it going to be like? And for most of people, they had this kind of code of silence that what happens there stays there. But still this idea of living in fear. So it's this idea for trans people of, I can't really be myself. I don't know which bathroom to use. If you think about the military, you think about uniforms, you think about housing, you think about, I mean, it's the binary. So it's just such a broad question because there's so many different ways. You know, if there's like an event where everyone's asked to bring their spouse or their partner, well, can I bring my partner? Because if I bring my partner, I'm outing myself as gay and I will be dishonorably discharged. Can I, if I get sick and I'm in a VA hospital or I'm in a military facility, can my loved ones come and visit me? They're not officially part of my family, but I've been partnered with them for 15 years. If I were to die, would my military benefits, would my pension, would my VA benefits, would they transfer to my partner? You know, some of these are before marriage equality, but this is still the Department of Defense. This is still the federal government. So there's all those kind of things. Can I be denied healthcare? Do I have to go to Equitas Health in Columbus because I can't go to the provider on base and talk about being queer or lesbian, trans? I mean, it just goes on and on.
Yeah.
Is my family proud of me? Are they proud of my military service? But they're ashamed that I came out after my military service as a trans woman. So, you know, it just goes on and on. What do you do on Mother's Day? What do you do on Father's Day? What do you do? I mean, it's just kind of countless. The things that are more veteran specific, I try to help people who got dishonorable or general discharges get their discharges upgraded. And the reason that might matter is because if you do have a dishonorable discharge or a general discharge, there are a lot of benefits in the civilian world that you're not eligible for. So, you know, there's these different things that I try to help people deal with pretty much every day while I'm at the VA.
Yeah.
And that part of my thing, I'm sorry, I interrupted.
Oh, no, you're good.
But part of my thing too is that when I walked into the VA, and I was mostly Army Guard, right? So the Army Guard, I don't have enough active duty to actually receive healthcare at the VA. So I'm like a second-class veteran in the sense that, yep, I'm a veteran. Yep, I work at the VA, but I can't get healthcare at the VA because I don't have enough active duty time. So, so there's that too. But when I walk into the VA, up until a month ago, there's nothing that looks LGBTQ friendly. There's no rainbow flag. There's no safe space. You know, it's very generic. It can be very controversial at these VAs. You get veterans that are very conservative, macho, right-wingish. I know my predecessor, Jess Hallman, who many people may know, put up some different LGBTQ friendly stuff in the lobbies during Pride Month, and veterans would come and stomp on it and throw it in the garbage. So you've got this kind of like culture that you've got to fight against. And when I talk to veterans, they say, and a lot of our literature, it says do ask and do tell. And some of the veterans say, I love the VA. I love how LGBTQ friendly the staff are, but I'm more worried about the other veterans in the building. You know, what will they think of me if I've come out now? If they knew me as Bob, but now my name is Mary Ann, like, what are they going to think of me? Does my street cred get lowered? Am I a disgrace now to my country? I mean, it's complex. So what I have tried to do is, we have the Biden administration now, thankfully, and the Biden administration has put pressure on the VA and the DoD to change some of their policies. And maybe pressure is not the right word, because the VA has changed policy to become more inclusive, which has then allowed me to say, hey, let's start putting up some safe space stuff at the entrances of this building. So now when you go in, and not that the entire building is suddenly LGBTQ culturally competent, because that is not true. But at least when a veteran walks in, they see the LGBTQ flag. It says safe space on the entrances. There in what's called the canteen or the lobby area. And then in the next few months, I'll be going out to what are called the outpatient clinics, the C-Box. So I went to Grove City the other day and dropped off a whole bunch of materials about, please ask people's preferred names and pronouns, lanyards and stuff. I'll be in Zanesville on Monday, trying to go up to more of the rural C-Box. So I'll be in Zanesville and Marion and Newark in the coming weeks, just trying to help people feel that the place is more inclusive. So that's why I asked how much time I have, because we could talk about this all day long.
I intentionally left it very broad and open because I thought that there was a lot of opportunity for many different types of responses. I loved how you were able to point to some of the structural things, policy-based things that LGBT veterans will face, but also those cultural or community things that run through veterans' heads of, I loved how you put, will my family be proud of me if I've come out after my service? So being toted as someone from a small town with lots of folks from my small town joining the military at young ages, is, especially in rural areas, there's this level of just huge respect and honor for veterans and those who serve in the military. And does that get tainted if someone is to come out after that? So thank you for articulating and putting imagery to that as well. And I think, Denzel, you had a question.
Yeah, and thank you for everything. Yes, I'm following up with Zach. I think you touched on a lot of topics, and a couple of things that really jumped out. So Stonewall, we were privileged for a while to have a program that helped with veterans looking to and I can't remember, I can't upgrade, as you said, I think this was the language, their discharge. And I think that's a phenomenal thing that you're continuing to do. And hopefully we can figure out a way to ensure that we connect our veterans in our community to that work as well. We were privileged enough to have a staff member that did that, but again, now that the VA has someone, creating that connection is going to be incredibly strong. And I think also what I appreciate in terms of sort of the description was it was less about sort of tactical and operational things in relation to some of the support. There were a lot of things that we're talking about that really are emotional and mental health things that people are thinking about, right? Like, and those are the critical soft spaces. And I say soft because again, they're not the things you can touch, but the soft spaces that I don't think people often also think about for LGBTQ veterans, that there's this added extra layer of I will use the term trauma, right? This added layer of trauma, right? Maybe you are in the service and maybe you do go into combat, or maybe you do these things. And so you've got that, right? That trauma on top of, having to keep silent about who you are in so many different ways. And I think that is probably something people don't think about, right? Like that there is compounded trauma by having to pretend or hide who you are, and then to be concerned about that in all the spaces, because you're not only concerned about that while you're in service, you're concerned about that when you're off base, right? If someone sees you in these spaces, what happens and how they come back to that. And again, those are the things that I think people don't often always think about, is how the ripples of having to hide who you are can impact in so many different ways. So just acknowledging and thanking you for highlighting that for people as well.
Thank you. So I now want to pivot to just asking a question for folks who might be viewing that are in the LGBT community, and ways that they can use whether it's their influence or their time or their efforts, but what are ways our broader LGBTQ plus community can service our LGBTQ plus veterans who have served our country?
Again, how much time do you have? So, like, for example, I'm on social media, as you probably know, and I post too much, as you may know. But it's Veterans Day.
Mm-hmm.
So my social media is plastered with Veterans Day. Thank a veteran, so-and-so is a veteran. And I think what we want to try to do is go past that if we can. And it's interesting, in the LGBTQ community, people don't typically think of the VA or as DOD as being gay friendly. They think of it as a hyper masculine, chauvinistic, bigoted society. And so for me, it's trying to fight against that. What I try to do is say, hey, if you work for an organization that does outreach, that is looking for opportunities to try to help veterans in the community, you can reach out to me. You can also look at some of these other organizations. It's the way veterans are set up, the way they're kind of structured post-service, is back in the day, people would connect with the VFW, Veterans of Foreign Wars. There's a few of those kind of like older generation service organizations, Vietnam Veterans of America. So it's an interesting dynamic right now, is that kind of like the post 9/11 veterans are getting more involved in groups like Team Red, White, and Blue, Team Rubicon, the Mission Continues. So these are organizations I'm happy to connect people to, happy to have people Google. Even if you're not a veteran, if you want to work with these organizations, it's great, because frankly, the Department of Defense does not do a good job of connecting people to the VA. And so a lot of times when people get discharged, they've lived in I'll call it a benevolent dictatorship. The military, in some ways, you feel like you're in a communist system. You know where you're going to live, you know where you're going to eat, you know what your rank is, you know who your friends are. Like your world is set. And a lot of times when veterans get discharged, the world feels like very, very different and very unstructured. and I don't know who my friends are anymore. I haven't seen my family in years. So this kind of re-engagement into society is a very fragile time. And that's why veteran homelessness is high, veteran suicide is a crisis right now. So there's so many other ways, and maybe I'm being kind of vague on specifically what to do. It's just a really big problem, and try to go past the Happy Veterans Day to what can I actually do to help a veteran. And I'm happy to help people connect with different organizations that are fairly active. In Columbus, we've got the National Veterans Memorial, which is down there right across from COSI.
Yeah.
It's a relatively new, beautiful building. And they have a lot of programming, a lot of services as well, try to get people connected. There are all kinds of things that are out there if you really want to connect. They have these things called honor flights that you can sponsor and go with an older veteran to, like a July 4th event or to a Vietnam Veterans Memorial. There's just so much out there. So try to go past the Happy Veterans Day to, what can I really do to affect change in this population?
Fantastic. I don't think it was vague at all. I think you gave some very clear, actionable steps. So I really appreciate your perspective on it.
I do. It's one of those things, as Denzel was talking about, we all have our intersectionalities. So for me, for example, do I have privilege? I have privilege because I'm white. I have privilege because I came out mid-career in an established career. So I have that kind of privilege. Black people don't have as much privilege as I do. And when you look at the military and you look at military service, not only do you have the trauma that came from battle, you might have intimate partner violence, you might have military sexual trauma. It's like all these different layers. Your family may be supportive or unsupportive, plus you're a veteran. So it's just another piece of your intersectionality. And so I don't know if I just went off on a random tangent, but it's that other little piece. So when I do work in what Denzel called the soft areas of this, it's like I've got veterans coming to me with lots of PTSD and lots of issues, and this sexuality or gender identity is just another wrinkle. And so what I try to do is link them up to other services. The VA in Columbus has about 100 social workers, which is huge. So lots of different opportunities and programs within that to reach out and care for people.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, I think I kind of answered a question and looped back to another question.
It's all good. We're all connected. It's all on the same program, so we're good. So now I would like to pivot from specifically focusing on questions that are about your role with the VA and more just questions about you and your career. So as I shared, I skimmed your LinkedIn as well as Facebook to kind of stalk you and figure out who is Jody. So you have worn many hats, from the Board of Equality Ohio to your previous work in IT and tech, to your military career, nursing, and as your work as a mental health and behavioral health provider. What is the through line that connects all of these for you? Because I can see some connections, but some folks might see that resume and be like, that is everywhere. So what is the through line that you see with all of these different shifts in your career?
Well, I think, like, for example, I came out, 2014, 2015. I became a licensed independent social worker 2016. And one of my first gigs after that, after I worked in the community, was at Clintonville Counseling and Wellness. So I was at Clintonville Counseling and Wellness for a couple of years. After that, Equitas. After that, VA, blah, blah, blah. But the idea is to pay it forward, I suppose, if you will. So I spent so much of my life, like, I didn't come out officially until my 40s. So that means I lived half my life in black and white, as I said before. So coming out now and living life in color, being able to actually be myself, I look at that and say, well, I want to help other people who feel that they're stuck, if you will, that they can't get the services they need. They're ashamed of their own gender identity or sexuality. So I feel to be in a very lucky place that I can try to affect change for people. And then I've been fortunate to testify against conversion therapy and some other different bills going through State House. So I just try to be helpful. I think that makes me feel like I'm doing something helpful with what I have. I mean, it sounds cheesy to say, all we can do is what we can do with the time we have, but that's what we've got. And yeah, that's true too. I'm getting some feedback here on more things to say.
Feedback is always good.
I know, but I have been fortunate to, be remarried and have a wonderful wife who's supportive and loving. And we work together on different projects. So one of the things that we try to do, besides the stuff I do officially, is we have a little group we call Out of Love Ohio, and that tries to help advocate for people with their kids who are coming out. So we kind of informally work with children, teenagers, their families on, oh my gosh, my kid just came out to me as genderqueer. I got no idea what that means, So there's I just like being helpful and being useful, and hopefully I think like when I came out, like with my daughter, she was 2.5 when I started to come out, and so my family was, what are you doing? You're destroying your family. You're ruining your child's life. My church asked me to stop coming. I had to move, divorced, all these, couldn't find a place to live for a while. So I remember those experiences, and I know that kind of pain. I try to use that to help people and try to help my family at the same time.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome. Well, I think we should all try to use the positions or the gifts that we have. So
agreed.
Yeah, I mean, that's my answer, I guess.
I love it. I mean, we all have the same 24 hours that Beyonce and Jody Davis has, but it's great to see that some folks can just really get a lot done and affect a lot of folks in such a positive way. So thank you for the work that you're doing for not just LGBT veterans, but so many other people.
We don't have the privilege of having as many assistants as they do, though.
Beyonce.
We've got to do the right, Beyonce, right. We got to do the work. So that is a testament. So I agree. Thank you so much for it. And I also want to just acknowledge this. You talked about sort of privilege and intersectionality, and again, I thank you for that, right? Because I think even though I wrote something earlier this year where I spoke about, I don't have a lot of privilege, but the little that I do have, I do try to leverage that as best as I can, right? Like I'm a dude, or people see me as a man, right? And that's a little bit of privilege, but I'm also a Black man. So the privilege kind of is taken away at the same time. I'm a gay Black man, so the privilege kind of keeps going away. But whenever I'm in a space that I can try to use some of that, I do. And I appreciate and thank you for doing that when you do, right? Like when you are in spaces that your privilege can help others, it is very clear that you are making space and knocking down walls as much as possible for people. So I appreciate and thank you for that.
Thank you.
So we have a little bit of time left, and I want to ask just kind of like, to me, it felt like a generic question, but I think you've talked about it a bit throughout our conversation. But I would just like to simply ask, what does Veterans Day mean to you?
How much time do we have? I have a weekly LGBTQ support group, and we had 7 people on there yesterday. So in that group, it's kind of trans queer heavy, but we've got, if there are 8 people, there's 2 or 3 that are lesbian, gay, bi, and then 4 or 5 that are trans or gender nonconforming. And they've been in the Air Force, they've been in the Army, they've been in the Navy. So they've deployed, they've been in combat or not. There's so many different ways to serve in the military. So I asked them, I'm like, what do y'all want to do for Veterans Day tomorrow? And, for people, depending on where you are in your socioeconomic status, it doesn't really change. Like if you're hustling, if you're low income and you're working your butt off every day, Veterans Day is like, oh yeah, it's Veterans Day. You know, I got to keep moving on with my life. So some of them were like, I'm gonna hit all the freebies today. I'm gonna go to Bob Evans. I'm gonna go to McDonald's. I'm gonna get 10% off at so and so. So some of them it was like freebie day. So I was like, okay, well, is it anything deeper than that? Like, you know, and then trying to pull them out to say what does it really mean to you? And what I try to think of is the people that I know in the service that served before me. So I think about my Uncle Bill. Uncle Bill was in Vietnam. He was a sniper with 101st Airborne. And I was very little, like I don't remember at all when he came back. But I do remember how he was when he came back, at least the stories I heard from my mom. So for Veterans Day, for me, I think about the people who served, made a bigger sacrifice than I did. People who wrote a blank check to the US government to live or die based on what our commanders tell us to do. You know, there's this acronym, it's like, mine is not to reason why, mine is but to do or die. And so these are people, myself included to some degree, who served their country and paid the ultimate sacrifice. So I think about like veteran cemeteries. If I've got my daughter on Veterans Day and she's not in school, we'll go visit a cemetery and read the names and try to imagine what their life might have been like. Try to pull us out of the generation that we're in and think about the thread of, you know, service to our country since the beginning. So yeah, I mean, I might get a freebie today. I don't know. But I try to think about the generations of people who lived and died to serve the country and try to be respectful of their service.
That was beautiful.
What are you doing?
Well, thank you again for your vulnerability and your openness of not just the work that you're doing, but you as an individual. We really appreciate. Oh, hello, who's this?
Well, this one is Maple.
Aww.
Maple's a little camera shy. Oh.
Well, it looks like you had a whole team joining you, and really appreciate everyone who's supporting you, as well as helping with some added commentary and added content. So again, just thank you so much for your availability, as well as the work that you're doing.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you
Of
for
course.
joining. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And goodbye,
happy
everyone.
Veterans
Thank you
Day.
for joining us. Happy Veterans Day. Do more than just say Happy Veterans Day.
Happy Veterans Day.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Okay, bye-bye.